and Broad. And today we're moving from Balogun to Broad Street because we're talking about the inflation that the country has been experiencing for the past few weeks, if not a month. Anyway, last week we started talking about how the inflation is affecting the common Nigerian, whether you're doing business, you run a business, you're a market person, you are a blue collar job worker, white collar job worker. We talked about all of that. But today we want to look at the measures that the federal government is putting in place to try to help stabilize the economy and the Naira. Now, the Naira has been a cause for concern over the weeks, and it's been making an appearance in the news over and over again. But lately, I think it was yesterday, the federal government decided that they were going to use $10 billion to stabilize the Naira. And they're eyeing the NNPC Limited for Forex. Well, my guest is joining me live via Zoom. He's an economist. He's a very good friend of the house, and always a pleasure to have him on the show. Gospel Obele, it's so good to have you join us, Gospel. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Marianne. Really, really great to hear. Happy birthday once again.
Thank you.
Lovely to hear your voice again.
Thank you. So, Gospel, I mean, I'm sure that you obviously are following, the trajectory of, in the country at an all-time high. Many people would have thought that months into this administration, something would have been figured out. With the likes of Cardoso, becoming the CN governor, many people thought she'd be able to rabbit out of a hat. But here we are talking about this federal government plan to $10 billion to Naira. What do you think?
Well, it's we keep, in my opinion, trying to patch the problem. When you have a wound and it's not properly cleaned up, to show that it heals, you get a situation where anything can cripple on it, and all that, and it could actually get worse. And that's what's happening to the Nigerian situation. The inflation we are faced with is largely structural, and the inconstant nature of our policies in the past few years just to where we are today. So you want to think about right from the time when the items were banned, crypto transactions were banned, borrowed insurance licenses were sort of withdrawn, even to the Naira redesign, to the trying to withdraw the old notes and replace with all of that that line of chaos, plus the misalignment in fiscal policies as well. All of this sort of facilitated the type of inflation we are dealing with. So it's not really a monetary type of situation. Inflation. It's more or less structurally woven into the social fabric of the economy. And plus the fact that you have a strong import-dependent economy. Mm-hmm. You have that imported inflation, which sprouts from high commodity prices over the Russia-Ukraine war, post-COVID argument, and all of that. So we put all these arguments into context. It tells you that the type of inflation we're dealing right now is non-monetary. So you need a strong mix of fiscal and monetary policy, or safe to say, ideas or initiatives, to deal with this type of inflation at a root causal level. Now, not to say palliatives or support programs that we have in this case, $10 billion, are not good. They are nice to have, because you need to also provide relief programs. In the UK, there's a cost of living fund that the UK government has rolled out, and that of tripling down through charities into communities. So you need relief. Relief is of the that part of strategy to ensure that people are hopeful for tomorrow. However, hope is also a strategy, and relief cannot replace the need for a more sustainable, more sustainable approach to dealing with the root causal element. So what happens now is that inflation has skyrocketed. Food inflation is right now at 30%, and that's to tell you that the average Nigerian is poorer on the month on month, because they have the bulk of their income trying to attend to the basic necessities they need, to thrive on the day-to-day. So, my take on this is that amount of money, that commitment, is important for me in terms of it as a necessary condition, but it's not sufficient to enable in terms of fixing the inflationary pressures and issues that we're facing in the economy.
We keep borrowing, and not to say that borrowing is a sin or so, but then in Nigeria, we're borrowing for the wrong purposes. We borrow these money. For example, the 25,000 the government wants to give to the poor and vulnerable. And then, of course, don't get me started on the fact that we don't even have statistics or any yardstick by which you'll be able to pick who's vulnerable or who's poor. Also, the federal government, as at today, in fact, the Federal Executive Council set a poverty alleviation trust fund. When we're yet to understand what that would entail, and how, again, this fund will help people and what the target is. But let's talk about the NMC. The NMC is what the federal government is eyeing for. In the past year, if I'm not mistaken, the NMC was unable to give the federal government. In fact, there was no money in the coffers of the NMT remitted to the federal government, and it's been called a limited liability company, even though it still acts as an appendage of government. We're also dealing with the fact that the NNPC has given out our oil, our crude, as payment for some loans that they are taking. So when we keep taking these monies and take these loans over and over again and keep spending them the wrong things, if we keep doing this, will we be able to change the economy? Plus, let me add, I'm sorry, the Senate and the House of Representatives are going to be taking ownership of vehicles that cost 200 million naira each. How does this help our situation?
Well, I mean, I think it's very visible. It doesn't help our situation. All the cluster of events that have unfolded recently do not help our situation. Again, because the type of challenge we're faced with requires some level of, you try to deal with head on, not just from manifesto angle, but really some kind of top political skin in the game kind of thing. Now, I care the poverty alleviation structure that we created or that they're trying to create right now. If the institutional and the governance or the ideology that, that we run with politically does not center heavily on people, like a million people, there is no amount of alleviation program you want to set up. It's literally going to get down to drain out. Probably get things, far worse down the lane. And that's it. It's just like a situation of you trying to fetch water with a basket. It would not hold any substance. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So you have a political economy that is driven on extractives. You design the policy, you structure the initiatives, you roll them out in such a way that it empowers only the minority. In the first place, the party problem exists because the more disempowered the people are, the more empowered the minority is. So it's a move cycle of intentionality that needs to be broken, and it starts first from the ideological block. Right. So now, what that ideological block is not being dealt with, no matter what you put at the surface level, 25K conditional cash as far as the elevation programs, it doesn't hold water. Right now, safe to say, between the conversion to NNPC and all that, right now in Nigerian economy, the non-oil sector holds about 96% of the economy. And that's safe to say that the Nigerian economy is already, in fact, over-diversified. Right? So diversification is not the problem. In fact, the services sector holds 56% of GDP construct right now. But we don't have a national services policy. In fact, globally, in terms of global trade, digital services surpassed goods traded in the past 1 year by 15%. So the future of trade and future of facilitating value in the global economy is largely hinged on services. All right, which technically tells us that Nigeria is better suited and positioned by virtue of our services construct to GDP and non-construct to GDP to thrive in the global landscape or in the future of global transfer. But because we're also visionary in our perspective, and being visionary is also a construct of the ideology that drives the political economy, we are not necessarily happy to that value. And again, it now means that our folks' body language, investment, and drive will be hinged strongly on the oil sector. The oil sector, yeah, I mean, it still has some level of relevance, but how can 5% construct of your GDP be responsible for 85% of revenue mobilization? That's a complete total alignment, and it's really poor economics. All right, so I don't care who you put at the helm of what. If the ideological foundations do not change to facilitate, because you have really best brains driving central bank and all of that, but if the ideology that drives students do not change, then it's not going to, nothing's going to happen. We're just going to keep moving to cycles and cycles. The inflationary figures have been on an upward trajectory for the past 5 years consistently. It's in misalignment. It doesn't work like anywhere in terms of frontier economics development.
The PwC recently put out a report talking about the fact that forex inflows in the country will continue to dwindle. In fact, it might dwindle more in the coming days. And that, again, does, whether we like it or not, affect businesses that we're doing with other countries. Remember, one of the reasons why we had that problem with the UAE government is our inability to repatriate their funds. With the naira to the dollar being, as at yesterday, 1,200, I don't even want to talk about the pound. People like us can't come and visit you anytime soon because our money cannot buy ticket. But so in that case, because you've also said that it's not that we don't have the best brains. So what exactly can be done to break this so-called ideology that you're saying, the political ideology that's driving us down into the ground? What do we need? What do we need to do?
The ideology was created to store where we are and to make things what it is today. Just to provide some more comprehensive angle to respond to these questions. every currency thrives on two legs. There is a necessary condition where the country itself has to be productive. All right, if you look at UK, look at every economy in the world where the currency is strong. It's a productive economy. You must produce. If you're not producing, then you have a strong service sector like UK, space as it were. And I know the interesting thing, to produce means you have raw material input or industrialized input. And if you're not producing, you are then servicing, which is what the UK does. But the Nigerian construct has all three. You have the agriculture, you have the industry, you have the services. So, and you're not even doing anything to sort of pick, at least one side to just ensure that it's working and generating what you need. So the economy has to first be productive. Now, when the economy is productive at a necessary level, and then you can galvanize a critical amount of your non-oil sector players to take the cocoa you have in Ibadan, for instance, process it into chocolates here in Nigeria, export those chocolates to sell in Tesco, Sainsbury's, and all the likes abroad, and then you can repatriate those funds back to Nigeria as FX inflow. Then you can begin to, have some form of stability around the Naira and have some form of long-term security over the supply of the Naira. As far as we don't do that, then no matter the scheme that's been introduced, we're just shortchanging ourselves. On the back of that as well, you also want to think of the fact that you have to elevate from necessary conditions to sufficient conditions. Sufficient conditions simply means that how are you enabling your currency to become the mainstay in the scheme of regional economics. So if you think of the yuan right now, China is bidding for direct exchange. So that means that if you want to do projects with China, going to gain investment from China, they're giving you those monies in yuan, not dollars. All right. Russia is trying to beat the same thing. The BRICS economy are trying to agree on a single currency where they can facilitate trade amongst themselves. So yeah, on one end, it seems like the control of the dollar is weakening, but on the other end, it tells you that nations are now vying. We're in an era of what we term as currency wars. So if you don't have the productive base for your currency in the first place and the institutional base to manage your currency and lobby for your currency in the scheme of things, you're out of the game. All right. So Nigeria is not even on any of those 2 footpaths like I just mentioned now. So, I mean, we should be the go-to currency in the African economic scheme of things. So we need to really do more. Like I said earlier on, it's not that we don't have the best people. It's the fact, it's the political. I mean, if you look at how the military ran their governance era, you could see how. So what you have right now are just, a group of people who run with the same ideology, who probably want to make things work, but there is just a systemic ideology or an institutional ideology that wraps them in, and that's the case we're faced with right now.
Interesting. Lakers, I want to bring you into this conversation quickly before we go on our first break, even though Gospel is going to be with us for a few more minutes. The phone lines are open: 0700 993 993 993, 0700 993 993 993. If you're a lady, 01465 7190 is the number for you to call. You could join the conversation also via Skype if you're listening to us from outside of the country with Nigeria Info. What I've gotten from this conversation is that we have everything we need to change the system, but we'd rather not.
More than enough.
But we'd rather
More
not.
than enough.
Anyway, let's take some calls. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening. What's your name, sir? Where are you from?
This is the one of Balogun.
Is it? Go ahead, please.
Yes, I want to ask. UK and America, what are they really producing? And again, are we using their products here in Nigeria? Because we are using the dollar. Why are we not using their products? If I thought they are producing anything. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for calling, Izzy. Would you care to respond to that?
I actually didn't get the question clearly.
So he's saying that we're using the dollar in this country, and of course, sometimes the pound, but dollar. And he's saying, what do the UK and the US really produce, and do we use their products in this country? Because we're using the dollar a lot more than any other currency.
I mean, those are the two strongest currencies in the world today. I mean, actually, the pound is the strongest, but the dollar is the globally accepted currency upon which transactions are pegged at. And now when you have a strong import-driven economy, a strong taste for foreign goods and all that, it means that you're going to, you're not producing. You're not producing. So it means that your consumption level is going to be very high, and there's going to be a high level demand for, that exchange. So when you have that high level demand, it technically means that demand is going to outweigh supply, which is one of the problems that the central bank is currently facing. You have so much demand for FX. You cannot even clearly estimate. We don't even know how much. We're underestimating in many cases the nature and the volume of demand for FX. And it's nuanced in healthcare, in education, in many areas, that people need these things for. And by the time you begin to facilitate that, and you realize that it pressures heavily on the exchange, because it's just simple economics. When your supply cannot meet your demand, then the equilibrium price will favor the demand side. It will go up, and that equilibrium price is the exchange rate. All right. So I mean, it's just what is happening. So until you can balance out on the supply end, and then use incentives to sort of attract people away from increased demand. So fix the healthcare locally, let it be working, fix the education institutions, fix our local factories, let it be forward-thinking institutions in themselves. By the time you begin to do that and scale that, then Nigerians will be incentivized. Emphasis on the word incentivized. So it's not about made in Nigeria, you're shouting me. No, it's about inspiring people to stop purchasing foreign products and start purchasing local products, because it beats the standard of the foreign product in the first place.
But then, you see, I have a few seconds to go. I'll let you answer the question when we come back on the break. But you see, we're very quick. I mean, the Bankers Committee is running an advert saying buy Nigerian, buy Nigerian. But there are not many alternatives in terms of what we produce in Nigeria. So what exactly are you telling us to do? We have many moribund industries all over the place. You and I have had a conversation, and I've told you, as a child, we produced a lot of things in my state: exercise books, matchsticks, etc., etc. But none of those things are working right now. The Senate is probing, our refineries and turnaround maintenance monies where it went. So what is the alternative? Anyway, Gospel Obele is an economist here on the line. We'll take a break. When we come back from this break, we'll take more of your thoughts and comments. Lagos is still Balogun Broad, and we are on Broad Street.
This is Hard Facts.
Credible journalism,
Bridging the gap between people.
and those in authority.
With Hard Facts, you are sure to get only the facts.
Tune in to Hard Facts with Marianne Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, we're back from that break. It's still Balogun Broad on Hard Fact. On Wednesdays, we take you to Balogun. Sometimes we take you to Broad Street, where you have the big banks and the, investments and all of those companies. We get to talk about, businesses on the market side of things and, of course, the big players. And today, my guest, Gospel Obele, is an economist, and we're looking at the inflation, yes, of the country, what we're facing right now, trying to get the Naira to get back on its feet, and all of the angles that the government have come from to try to make this happen. Well, Gospel has been able to, paint us a picture, maybe not such a great picture, seems a bit gloomy. But then, like I said, what I got from everything we've said is that it's not that we can't do it. We have everything we need to be able to change our situation of things, but then there is no political will. There is no will whatsoever to change, or break down whatever it is the establishment has been from time. But well, I did say that Lagos, it was time for you to talk. So join the conversation. 0700 993 993 993 0700 993 993 993. Gospel, I did ask you a question before I went on that break, did I?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Do you remember it?
Something so like how we can change the status quo, something like that.
I don't know if you answered that question before, but let's take some calls. Let's take some
I
calls.
answered, yeah.
Yeah, let's take some calls. 0700 993 993 993. Don't forget, you have 60 seconds. Hello, welcome to Balogun Broad.
Good evening.
Good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Messi from Agra Igberegbe.
Okay, go ahead.
And my question that I want to ask that what is the particular thing that Nigeria is producing in this country? I mean, they are producing wickedness in this country. And I mean, what the particular thing that they are producing in this country? I want to know because we are suffering. We are suffering enough.
Okay.
It's too much.
Okay.
What is the particular thing they are producing in this country? Nothing to buy, nothing to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for calling.
Us. We are suffer. What is the particular thing they are producing in this country?
All right. Thank you very much. I think I've got your question. Hello. Welcome to Hard Fact. Hello. Anybody home? All right. Do call me back if that was you. Hello. Welcome to. Hello. Turn off your radio, please. Hello. 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 Welcome to Hard Facts.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Marianne.
Yes.
It's okay.
Welcome.
Good. So, if we can import something as little as a stick of matches, and toothpick, even pencil, what hope is there for Nigeria for us to grow our economy? If everything we do is import and import, even to import dollar to stabilize the Naira, is our government really thinking at all? Are they really thinking? I beg, it is well.
All right. Thank you very much. Gospel, I want to start with the question of the lady. She was asking that what exactly do we produce in this country? Now, that's because you talked about the fact that even the fact that we are not producing and we're mostly a service economy, we're not even leveraging on it. So can you speak to it? She's asking, what do we really produce in this country?
Yeah, I mean, the baseline thinking will be that we already have loads and loads of raw materials. Number one, the world is tomatoes, all that. So we have the resources, the minerals, natural resource that we could just refine and take to market. So let's assume, or let's actually what the case is though, we are not producing anything, but we also have a strong human capital base who are constantly exporting the skills, through the service sector window. So there are a lot of young Nigerians, for instance, who are doing graphic design stuff, programming, software developers, and full stack developers and who are working remotely for institutions abroad, and they get paid in foreign
Foreign
currencies
currency.
and all of that. But you don't even have data to tell how many graphic designers we have in Nigeria, for instance. You don't have anything to track that value chain of efforts, within and across borders to start with. So that's to say that if you were looking at it from a service component only, which is already working, there is nothing to use to say, okay, this is how we size it up, this is how we explain it, this is how we organize the market, this is how we profit from it. So we are actually producing stuff, not in the conventional natural resource you think of it from, but a lot of human capital efforts are being churned out right there from somebody's desk in Yaba, Lagos, working for a Moroccan or American company and all of that. So the problem again has been that you're not tapping into your resources and you're not organizing the market of what's working.
Okay, let's take another call. Hello, welcome to Balogun Broad. Please turn off your radio. Thank you very much.
All right. Good evening there.
Good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Abimbola Kamal.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. I think the problem we are having, it's not that we cannot produce or we cannot manufacture anything for export. But what I think is the problem is the electorate, we the masses.
How do you mean?
We don't have confidence in our leaders. Okay, for example, the last president, Muhammad Buhari, had importation of rice and some other things to encourage local production. So when you do that, before it will manifest and you start having it, there is going to be high in prices. The product could be taxed and all that before the local manufacturer will be able to meet the demand. But the citizen engagement is very poor. Enlightenment is very poor. I don't know the job of orientation agency. They are the ones that are supposed to be enlightening people. Because people will shout, they will start making noise, things are hard, things are tough, this and this, and before you know, you got to listen to them and ban whatever they have banned.
Okay.
And then the moment they are still in touch, we will not be able to compete favorably with other countries.
Okay.
So that is the problem.
All right.
That I would couple with some other things I think is the problem. But I think let your guest answer the question, the first question. We don't we use dollar, but we don't use American products. We use Chinese products majorly. But it is the dollar that is, yes, it is global currency. But why can't we do this? What happened to the yuan swap, Naira yuan swap?
Okay.
The last specification, the agreement they made. To that.
All right. I don't know if you heard anything he said. Did you?
Actually didn't. I can't even hear the conversation.
Okay. So first and foremost, he says that the followers are the problem, that we don't have enough trust in our leaders to be able to do these things. Secondly, he's saying he needs you to answer that question that was asked, that why do we still use the dollar? What happened to the Naira yuan swap? I mean, because according to most of the things we use in this country are from China.
Yeah, I mean, there are very deep political and economic undertones to how currencies work. And we're in the age of what we term as currency wars. And one of the ways you get to know how countries are spreading their influences in geopolitical or regional blocks is through their currencies. How you've been able to match currencies again. So take, for instance, now, it's still the same situation. If you want to buy something in Kenya, in Mombasa, Kenya, you cannot actually pay in Naira. The individual on the other side gets it in shillings. It has to go through a third-party currency. Most times the dollar or euro or the pound. So there are very deep economic structures, woven into political dynamics that still makes that chain happen. Part of the whole Naira to yuan switch is what the BRICS recent agenda has been, meaning that more countries into the polity. That way we can control the scheme of things and we can have a unified currency we use to trade and all that. So even China is still struggling to get her currency into the mainstay of direct exchange. So the United States and the Fed and Co. and the ECB and the Bank of England, those are three power central institutions in the world who are almost detecting the flow or the outlook of monetary policies globally. So it's the reason why you see once they increase interest rates, very likely other central banks will increase interest rates and all that. So these are deep monetary arguments woven deeply to political dynamics that we can't just explain call.
Okay. I'll take one quick call before we wrap things up here. Let me take another call. Hello, welcome to Balogun Broad. Apologies. Call me back if that was you. Hello. Welcome to Balogun Broad.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name, sir? Where are you calling from?
My name is Planet Man.
Planet Man, go ahead.
you want me to tell you what we are producing? Hello?
Do you have a question or you have a comment? Which one?
Can you hear me?
Do you have a question or a comment? You don't have time, sir.
Yes, I want to know what we are producing.
Go ahead,
we
quickly.
Producing technicality. That's what we are producing. Technicality.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much for calling. Okay, let's see. We have some messages in this part. Let's see. Okay. Someone sent a message saying, okay, this it's a long message. I cannot afford to read it. But finally, before we go, because we have about 1 minute 40 seconds. From everything we've talked about today, it seems that we can make our leaders to be accountable to us, not just politically, but in making these things work. Because whether we like it or not, we're the ones who are at the receiving end, gospel. Like I told you earlier on, our senators and our House of Rep members are going to take delivery of 200 million naira SUVs, and they told us that it's because they need it because of the bad roads. Those bad roads obviously are supposed to be fixed by our leaders, but they're not fixing it. Once again, we're the ones who suffer. For someone who's looking from the outside in, what shred of hope should the average Nigerian hold on to in terms of making sure that our leaders do what they need to do to better our lot? I mean, that's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would like to encourage Nigerians and businesses and stakeholders in the space to look for how they can improve on the quality of life within the scheme of things, legally and all of that. For instance, for a business, look for new markets, think about new products that are not vulnerable to inflation and all that. Think about how you can collaborate, break into more purchasing power block markets and all of that. So that's on one end. On the end of holding leaders more accountable, it has to be like an organized effort. Right now there is no even citizen agenda setting. A lot of Nigerians don't really care to start with. Compared to the UK market where the average individual knows about the inflation figures, can literally explain what the cost of living crisis means in the very basic layman issue way.
We have to go.
We need Nigerians to organize themselves, lead more intelligent advocacy to hold government accountable.
Well, Gospel, we have to go. Thank you so much. Gospel Obele is an economist. Thank you for being on the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Mary, and have a wonderful year.
All right, Lagos, and that's it on Balogun and Broad.
When it comes to your financial dreams, who's got your back? It's Capital Field Investment Group Limited. With 2 decades of expertise and commitment to excellence, we are the name you can trust. From investment and loans to financial and asset management to oil and gas, microfinance.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99